Here we're going to take a look at a few pinpointers that I use. Of course, the standard Garrett ProPointer and the newly released White's Bullseye TRX. Now, I have used the Garrett for about a year, and I have no complaints. I have no issues with falsing or any of the other complaints that users have had. Now, with both these, you may notice there's a couple things that I do with my pinpointers. I dip the tips in Plasti Dip, which is a rubber coating to protect that sensitive tip on both of these. That just allows you to use it and not deal with wear and tear from the ground, poking and digging around. I've only had to replace the Plasti Dip tip on the Garrett once. It's really a great product. You can get it at, I don't know, Home Depot or other hardware stores, I would imagine. But it really does a great job at protecting the tips of these. Also, I put electrical tape covering the speaker holes. Not only does that dull the piercing sound that these tend to have, but it also protects that speaker hole from water or dirt. Now, let's see. First, looking at the holsters these come with. Obviously, the White's TRX comes with a branded TRX. The Garrett's just blank. They feel pretty much the same. If I had to pick a winner, I would say the TRX is a little more solid. They're both very firm and protective. They both have the Velcro snaps, which are great for just quickly tossing these on a belt or a fines pouch or whatever you're using to put this on. A few other companies, I know the MindLab Profine 25 that I had, it had it was sewn together on both sides, so you'd have to like take your belt off and weave it through there, which I always thought was just really annoying. The White's does have this metal clip, I guess, if you wanted to clip it to something else that you were wearing. So I definitely like the TRX better just because it feels more solid and more protective. But they're pretty close. Now, looking at the actual pinpointers, obviously you can see the White's TRX has the orange cap. Look at the seals, the waterproof seals real quick here. The Garrett's is smaller, a little harder to take off, but not a real big deal. I don't know if you can see, the Garrett's has just a small rubber ring near the top here for the seal, whereas the White's has a more angled seal towards the where it actually touches the rest of the pinpointer. I guess while they're open here, one thing to note is that the White's does have an option for 2 AA or a 9-volt, which is really awesome. I know a lot of people invest in nice rechargeable AA's, so it's a good option. The Garrett's obviously is only 9-volt. I haven't had a problem with the Garrett's seal, and I've ran it underwater. I've not really submerged it very much because that's not really recommended, but definitely for any washing that I've done, the Garrett's has been fine. A few other things. It's kind of nice that the White's has, I don't know if you can see it on here, maybe like that. It has 1 to 8 inches marked, so you can see how deep whatever you're looking for is. I've measured it. It's also about 9 right to the seal, and then right about 10 to the end. So while it's not marked, you can still use that as measurement. It's pretty darn close. As far as the feel of them, the White's, it actually feels, it just feels cheaper. I mean, it's solid, but you can see that the White's is obviously bigger, longer, and a little more thicker than the Garrett, but the Garrett must just have a thicker shell because it just feels really solid and heavier, I guess, than the White's. I'm not saying that the White's feels cheap, but it doesn't feel as solid as the Garrett's. Now, as far as the lights, I'm not sure if you can tell, but the white's light is really weak and probably pretty much going to be pointless. The Garrett's, I mean, look at that. You can see the white's just a little dot, and the Garrett has a big field of light. I don't do a lot of detecting at night, so that doesn't really matter, or detecting at dark. What else here? Let's see. The button. I've always felt that the Garrett button feels kind of cheap, like it's gonna flop out if I pressing at it the wrong way. The whites is a little more flush, and it definitely doesn't feel like there's as much play. Yeah, it's a nice press. You really got to press in that Garrett to get it to go, and the whites is just a quick tap. I won't get into the functionality of the whites or the Garretts, because I think there's already a few videos showing your ability to decrease the sensitivity of the whites, and because the whites is at least in air tests it detects things a couple inches further than the Garrett, but I mean that's an air test, we all know that doesn't really matter. I mean the MindLab Profine 25 had a much better air test than the Garrett, but in the field, the Garrett tended to win out as far as depth. So the last thing here I've done is I've created basically a magnetic field chart, I guess you would say, for each detector. And what I did here, I placed each detector right here in this little outline, and I took a penny and faced it with the face part towards the center of the tip on each detector, just to get a feel of when it would pick it up. Now here in the black line is the Garrett's detection field. Furthest I could get with that penny was about 1.5 inches, and you can see here that 360 degree detection. So it's picking it up not only here by the button, but all along that shaft as I went around. And I guess that's kind of nice if you weren't quite sure where the target was, but it also can be confusing if you're digging in that hole and your target's right here and it's going off like crazy, and you're thinking that target is right here, so you dig a little bit or whatever, and it just can be a little confusing. Whereas you can see the whites in the green here. There was a strong detection field starting right around the tip here, about 3 inches, about twice the distance of the Garrett. But then right in this middle area is this dead zone. Now every time I came in with that penny, and I can show you, it does the same thing with my ring here. Every time, maybe that's not going to work because the metal in my table or whatever. But anyway, with the whites here, it came in strong around the base like I thought, but then there was this dramatic cutoff where I had penny right here, nothing, and then all of a sudden, bam, big old hit when I got near the tip. So I think I'm gonna like that better, because it's gonna create less opportunity for me to be confused by what is actually setting it off. Obviously, there's nothing you can do about the back end here setting it off, but when I'm down in there and I've got it pretty much isolated, I think this is going to allow for less confusion by having this separated field. Now, I mean, in this dead area right here, there is, bigger items are obviously going to set it off regardless of where it's at around here. But as far as the penny facing the tip, the definite dead zone here. So I think, the whites is going to be my primary this year, and we'll see how that goes. I have high hopes for it. I really respect Whites as a company. I've never owned any of their detectors, but in all my research, you can't go wrong with that company, made in the USA. I have high hopes for that. And the Garrett will obviously become my backup if I don't decide to sell it. I don't imagine I will. I really have loved this thing, and it's done me well. It has not had a single problem. No sensitivity issues, no falsing, anything like that. It's just been really solid. And I think I attribute that to maybe my my the way I care for stuff like this. I'm protect the tip. I'm not a damaging it. It's got a digger tool on it, but I don't sit in there and dig on it. I have a shovel for that. I have my lash for that. So I think with anything, you take care of it, and it's gonna treat you well. So it's certainly not knocking the Garrett. Love this thing, but I'm gonna have to give the new Whites Bullseye TRX a try, because I think that extra depth and that dead zone in there is just, I'm really gonna like that. So yeah, that's my thoughts.